Coin on.
Hello, YouTube coin community. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Andy Schectman. Mr. Schectman is the founder and CEO of Miles Franklin Limited, precious metal brokerage firm. Miles Franklin Limited specializes in the sale of precious metals such as gold, silver, platinum, palladium, and a range of products, including bullion bars, coins, and other investment-grade precious metals. The company is known for its expertise in precious metal investment and for providing educational resources to help clients understand the benefits and risks associated with investing in precious metals. Mr. Schectman is recognized for his extensive knowledge of the precious metals market and is often sought after for his insight and analysis on economic trends, inflation, and the role of precious metals in wealth preservation. He frequently participates in interviews, podcasts, and industrial events where he shares his expertise on topics related to precious metal investment, market dynamics, and financial strategies. Later in this video, he will take and be making a special offer to you, the Coin community, if you would like to take and invest in some gold and silver. So without further ado, here's Andy, everybody. And here you go, guys. JB, introduce yourself and go for it. I'm going to let you run the show.
Good afternoon, CoinOp community. JB here. Really great to be back with you guys again. Cannot wait to see you all in July, at the end of July, for the Greater Cincinnati Numismatic Coin Exposition. Don't forget, this year we're focusing on the young numismatists, the kids. We've got the treasure hunt this year. So if you can make it to Cincinnati and at the last weekend of July, the more the merrier. We're going to have a lot of good giveaways, a lot of good information, a lot of good presentations. As you all know, I'm been a part of the CoinOp community for quite a few years now. I was a Marine for 21 and a half years. I was a bomb dog cop in DC for 10 years. And now I currently work at the Pentagon in DC doing some contract work for the Marine Corps. It's a real honor to have Andy Schectman join us here on the channel. I follow him religiously because I was a political science major in college. I've toured the world in some good places and bad places in my time in the Marine Corps. So I've seen the global world and how it affects everything nowadays because the world is so small. And a lot of the things that Andy has to say, I really believe. The problem is getting that word out to you all. So you know me, you know Robert, and I hope you guys can welcome in Andy Schectman and learn a little bit about him. And I'm just so honored to have him here as our guest. Andy.
Well, that's very cool of you. Appreciate that, man. And thank you for your service. I think that should be said more often to guys like you. And at an interesting time, too, when the U.S. military missed their recruitment goal by 41,000 troops this year. It's the smallest size active military that we've had since 1940. I find it also interesting. They said that 77% of young people in America do not meet the basic standards to join the military, whether physical, mental, or moral reasons, and so I actually have great respect and admiration and appreciation for someone old school like yourself who put your own rear end on the line for all of us. So my respect. And it's good to be here. I appreciate it very much and looking forward to it.
Awesome. So, sir, one of the things we, in the Marine Corps, we say work the problem big to small. Well, that kind of goes with this. There's so many small little nitnoid things that I want to ask you a ton of questions that we don't have the time for. But we should start with the big stuff. Would love to hear a little bit about, I know Miles Franklin is one of the most respected bullion dealers out there. And, I know you have a very diverse client base. We have a very diverse subscribership here on CoinOp. We've got the numismatic collectible people. We've got the stackers of bullion. We've got kids. We've got middle-aged people. We've got old people. So would love to hear a little bit about your story about the promise to your father. I want to hear, I definitely want our viewers to hear that. And a little birdie told me once there might be some baseball in your history. So I'd like to hear about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I went to the University of Minnesota with intentions of playing baseball along the way. I blew out my knee in 1989 and came to work with my father. My father and I started a company from scratch. My dad's middle name is Miles. His best friend, who lent us at the time $60,000, his middle name was Franklin. We started, I guess you could say we're the embodiment of the American dream. And I'll show you the baseball analogy here at the end of this little explanation of who I am and how I look at things. But we really are the least, in terms of the American dream, I love this country. I really do. It's given me opportunities that as a younger guy in high school and whatnot, I never would have dreamed of where I've ended up. And it was done so largely because of people like you who have helped make this country a free place, one filled with opportunities. And part of my message lately has been watching that kind of slide by, and I'm sure we'll get into that later, but the least likely cast of characters to have ever succeeded in a one-room office the size of a closet in 1989. When I started this company with my dad, he said, look, there's going to be only one rule or I'll fire you. I won't let you make the same mistakes that I made as a younger man. All right, cool. I said, I can deal with that, Dad. What is that? He said, you'll buy some gold or some silver or whatnot, anything we sell every 2 weeks when you get paid, period. You will prioritize yourself first. You will pay yourself first. And honestly, guys, it's the best gift I've ever been given. I like to tell this story because it, to me, is incredibly significant. And what it taught me was the laws of compounding and letting those very powerful laws of compounding work for me rather than against me, the way most people do in this country. Most people believe it's our birthright to go into debt. I remember a conversation I had with my grandfather. He would always pitch me baseballs every day. And he once said to me that he never would buy a house or a car without having enough money to pay for it. The concept of a mortgage or the concept of a car payment was ridiculous to him. Of course, back in the 50s and the 60s, in 1960, the average price of a house in middle America was $17,000. Now, of course, $17,000 was a whole lot more than it is today. But the point of it is that the concept of debt was foreign to people way back when, at least the kind of debt that we've all become slaves to now. And so the concept of accumulating something every 2 weeks and prioritizing my future self, my retirement, paying myself first, allowing the laws of compounding to be my friend rather than my enemy, was the best gift I've ever been given. Now, I've pretty much ran the company and owned it outright for over 2 decades. My father's still alive. We talk every day. He won't fire me anymore, but I've honored my promise to him, and I have never missed a 2-week period in going on 35 years. And it's amazing when you see the result of the laws of compounding working for you rather than against you. And that is the way that I look at gold and silver as a result. To me, it is not an investment. It is wealth. It is wealth that has outlived 2 world wars, the German hyperinflation, the Great Depression, every pandemic, everything the world has ever thrown at it. And here we are, in 2024, and the central banks of the world are buying more gold than they ever before. And I think that says something, that gold is wealth and is being viewed that way by the most powerful players on the planet. To your point regarding baseball, yeah, baseball was something that I loved more than anything growing up, and played high-level softball after college into my 40s, all around North America. Always was my one true love. And after joining Miles Franklin in 1990, let's call it, we wrote a newsletter. This was before the internet. And the newsletter was a way for us to get our information out to the public. And I used to put into the newsletter, if you own baseball cards, send them in and I'll pay you gold and silver for them. And I would get boxes up to my ceiling when I would come in from people your grandfather's age, and I built a world-class collection. And the genesis of this conversation here about the baseball cards is in reflection to the way that I look at collectible coins. So I can show you, you really won't be able to see it, but those are some of the baseball cards in those two cases up there that are all very old. They are anywhere from 1906 to 1967 or 8, and everything. Really, that's as new as they are, or the newest card would probably be 1968 or 69. And those cards are all certified by a company called PSA, which is an offshoot of PCGS. They're both owned by Collectors Universe. Those cards should be certified because they are old. And, you know, you go back to the early 1900s, kids had no idea to take special care of baseball cards. Just like this coin right here is an MS-64 St. Gaudens from 1928. And, you know, it's certified PCGS. Well, back then it was money. People didn't know to take special care of their coins. It was money. Just like, you know, who takes special care of the dollar bills in your wallet? It was the same thing. And so when you talk about collectibles, to me, whether it be baseball cards, which, you know, everyone who grew up right around the time I did, I was born in 1970. If you started collecting baseball cards in the mid 70s, by then they already had price guides out and you knew that they were special and you should take good care of them. And it's morphed into a situation now where, you know, everyone takes special care of their baseball cards, and they try and create rarity through only making a few of them, and whatever. I get it. But the point is, to me, a real collectible or a real rarity has age tied to it. And in a period of time where being a collector never came into the conscious of the people using either the pre-33 gold coins or the old baseball cards. You know, the kids put them in their spikes, I mean, in the bicycle spokes or whatnot. So as a foundation of the way that I look at numismatic coins, and I like numismatic coins, don't get me wrong. And again, to me, gold and silver have always been wealth, right? But there is something to be said for numismatic coins if you can get them at a price that is reasonable and or you know what you're doing. And I look at it as a hot fudge sundae. The first thing you want to do is start with a big bowl of vanilla ice cream. And that would be Bullion heavy things, American Eagles, Canadian Maple Leafs, gold and silver bars, you name it, pre-65 junk silver, whatever it may be. This is the vanilla ice cream. There's nothing wrong with hot fudge and a cherry on top, a 64 Saint or higher or more rare or more scarce. And I just think it's, as we continue this conversation, the moral of what I'm trying to get at here, whether we're talking baseball cards or gold, I think it's about the number of ounces that you own that really matters. I think the form does matter, but I think that when we talk about what is a collectible, for me, once you get past 1933 in gold and 1936 in silver, granted, there are things that are still collectible after that, but my main focus on what I consider to be collectible would be pre-33 gold. And there were times over the last several years, 2017 being the one that really comes to mind, where people could trade a 1 ounce gold American Eagle for an MS-63 $20 Liberty straight up, pretty dang close, and not lose any gold. There are times when premiums are collapsing, and there are times when premiums are going nuts, like in 2008 when Obama was preordained to become the president. Everyone thought he would confiscate gold. So premiums went parabolic. And you could sell an MS-63 $20 Liberty for, I don't know, almost $1,000 premium to $1,000 gold price. That's what we would buy them back for. 800, 900 over $1,000 gold price, 80 or 90% premium. That would have been the time to sell those coins and go into bullion. But the point I'm simply trying to get is, as we talk about gold, as we talk about collectibles, I understand collectibles. My main message would be that gold and silver are wealth. And I think the most powerful people in the world look at it this way. And I think from that point, it will be easier to understand the way that when I comment on these things, the way that I am looking at gold and silver. But for all of you collectors out there, there's nothing wrong with it. just make sure, in my own humble opinion, that that does not represent your vanilla ice cream, the bowl of what you are trying to achieve or accumulate for preservation, and especially preservation in a period of time where the dollar may come into question. You want things that are widely accepted, whereby if you don't get that premium that you think something is worth, that you're all right with it, and that you understand that, you know, there's a time to own heavy bullion content, and there's a time and a place to own collectibles. So not that I'm against them. I just think that we need to define what a real collectible is. And in my mind, it's age first. That to me determines scarcity, not much else. So with that being said, happy to take any questions or continue down any path you guys would like to go.
I think that's one of the points that you made. You hit it beautifully, because I try to explain this to my family, and I just can't seem to break through to them. They look at me like I'm wearing a tinfoil hat. I tell my family all the time, a $20 gold piece in 1924 was 20 bucks. A $20 gold piece right here, right now, as we sit here and talk, 22, 23, 2,400, depending on condition and rarity. Whereas a $20 bill is 20 bucks.
Not quite.
Yeah, exactly. A $20 bill might only get you about $8 worth of stuff that you could buy 2 years ago. So I try to tell my family, it's great to have your stocks and your mutual funds, and it's great to have your bonds, and it's great to have your 401k. Those are all, like you said, perfectly. That's your chocolate syrup and the nuts and the cherry on top. But if you don't have anything real, you don't have a lot. You've got a lot of syrup and cherries and nuts, but you don't have that vanilla ice cream and the bowl to hold it in. So I think you put that perfectly. It just, my family looks at me like I'm again wearing that tinfoil hat when I say you got to start investing in gold and silver. It doesn't have to be, you know, anything special, but you should be doing it, and they won't do it. I can't break through.
Well, you know, there are things that should be mentioned, and our media does such a poor job of telling us what's happening. The most powerful bank in the world, the Bank of International Settlements, in 2019 reclassified gold as the world's only other tier 1 reserve asset. Now, that should mean something, because since the end of World War II, the only tier 1 reserve asset has been US dollars and treasuries. The Bank of International Settlements is the most powerful bank in the world. They are the central banker's central bank. They pulled many of the strings that control the world, and to reclassify gold as the only other tier 1 reserve asset in the world is something that should be taken very seriously. And when you see the central bankers, the most well-funded and, more importantly, most well-informed traders in the universe, massively accumulate gold over the last 5 years to a degree that the world has never seen. And I would argue equally as indicting would be the fact that they have all stood for delivery or are repatriating their gold. A good example would be the Bank of India, who just bought 1.5 times the amount of gold that they bought all of last year in the first 4 months of this year, brought it all home along with 100 metric tons of gold they've been holding at the Bank of England for the past 30 years, 25 years, 30 years, since 1991. And they have been holding it there because it gave them direct access to the LBMA. Well, the same thing is happening on the Comex, where we've seen the German Bundesbank, the Bank of Hungary, Turkey, Poland, the Czech National Bank, the Bank of Austria, and more recently, the Bank of Saudi Arabia, the Bank of Egypt, the Bank of South Africa, Algeria, Nigeria, many of the African countries. They are all repatriating their gold from the New York Fed, which it's been there forever, i.e. the Comex. And so these two epicenters, the Bank of England and the New York Fed, would have been safe places to hold your money with the rule of law and access to the main trading hubs. And now we are seeing, largely because of the weaponization of the treasury market and the dollar against Russia, where, let's call it outright theft, where we have taken $5 billion of their treasuries and we have used them to buy munitions to give to the country they're in a war with. That's a line you don't come back from. Trust is something that is earned, and once broken is very hard to put back together, kind of like a broken glass. And to what gold represents to me above all else, aside from being wealth. It is an asset, to your point, Brandon, that is not simultaneously someone else's liability. There is no counterparty risk associated with holding gold in your own possession. And when the most well-funded and well-informed traders in the world are doing this, it does not matter anything else. Their actions betray everything else. And the fact that the most powerful bank on the planet says, oh, by the way, the only other tier one riskless asset on the planet, even though for 70 plus years it's been US dollars and treasuries, well, it's also gold. And so when you realize price is the ultimate tool of misdirection, where for, let's say, gold on the London Bullion Metals Exchange, they trade up to 200 million ounces per day, and they trade up to 2.9 billion ounces of silver per day. That's 3.5 times global mine supply per day. That is creating distortions in prices where a handful of big commercial banks can hold down the price of gold and silver for years and years and years, because it is the antithesis of the Western system. But what is changing right now, which will make your family members understand what you're talking about more vividly when they see it with their own eyes, is the fact that when these exchanges were built, well, the London Metals Exchange is 140 years old, but the Comex was built in 74, and going all the way back until just recently, maybe 5, 8, 7, 10 years ago, these countries in the global south, Russia, India, China, Saudi Arabia, all of these countries neither had the desire nor the coordination, the wealth, the sophistication, and they weren't cunning enough to understand the way that you beat the West at this game, if you will, this hegemony that we've had collectively for over 500 years, whether you're talking United States, England, the Netherlands, all of these Western countries, is by standing for delivery in the commodities that they are suppressing. And what we are seeing is a massive draining of the world's supplies using the suppression of the Western market, where they can trade 3.5 times the global yearly mining supply in one day on one exchange. On the Comex, we're seeing silver right now being rehypothecated by about 1,500%, meaning 15 of us own the same contract. And if all 15 of us stand for delivery, which no one ever did, even as recent as 2019, no one did. Very, very few. It's used to offset risk, not to stand for delivery. But now you're seeing these countries say, if they're going to hold down the price and make their dollar and their bond market seem better than it is, let's just stand for delivery and play the same game. And we are seeing that. And that's what will happen, where the collective awakening of the public says, geez, what just happened to gold and silver? Bang, it went way higher. And there are reasons why I believe that will happen, many of them. But the fact that the most powerful and well-informed traders in the world are doing this should validate everything that you were trying to say to your family. The only problem is, unless you dig, unless you research, I spend 2 to 3 hours, 7 days a week, every day, reading websites all around the world to get information that is not talked about in the West. And it is in an effort to see the truth. That is, there's an old saying, you can't get out of the way of what you don't see coming. And I think it's very true. So people who are able to see the truth for what it is will be prepared to get out of the way of what's coming. And people who are well-intended and well-read maybe are just reading the wrong stuff. And maybe that's your family, that, they think they're well-read and they are educated and sophisticated, but unless you do the digging, you're going to be led down the wrong path. And that's one thing we can thank our media for sure. Just like it's just amazing that our media all of a sudden realizes that Biden does not have the mental aptitude to be the leader of the free world after the debate. The last 3.5 years now, he's been great. We're supposed to believe that they just had a collective awakening. We're being gaslighted in so many ways, and that's regardless of what side of the aisle you're on. I mean, I find it to be disgusting that we're supposed to believe that they're just now realizing this. So the point of it is that, yes, gold and silver have never been more important to own, because the biggest money in the world is showing you that through their acquisition and the removal of counterparty risk by taking possession. And there are very few things in the world that you can own as an asset that lack counterparty risk. And in the world we are heading into, the systemic risk, the derivatives, are such that I think it will become very important. This is why they had to bail out AIG, the reinsurer, in 2008, because they were insuring all the banks. And if they went down, the whole system goes down. This is why UBS had to bail out Credit Suisse. They would have brought down the whole system. It's called systemic chain reaction. And having things in your own possession probably has never been more important. And it starts with gold and silver.
That's an excellent point right there.
Having a question, JB.
Oh, go ahead.
With what you just said, I watched Ralphie, and I'm certain you've seen it, Andy, where he tried to stand for delivery for one contract on the Comex and all the problems he had. I guess my question to you is, in my lifetime, and I know you just said you've been around for a while, how many times, I want the people out there to understand, how many times has the system that you were just referring to where people have contracted that they own so much gold and silver, but it's only on paper, and then push comes to shove and they need that, and all of a sudden everybody wants to receive their gold or silver at that time, and these warehouses have got to file bankruptcy because they've overextended themselves.
Well, that first of all, I was involved with Rafi and Chris Marcus and that was trying to take it through. It was a contract through a company. I can't think of the name of it, but they were offering it. It was, I'll think of it in a moment. It wasn't directly off the Comex. It was off the Comex by proxy of a company that was selling metal through their account, the Harry Brown Balance Portfolio. I can't think of the name of it, but even between myself, Chris, and Rafi, we never were able to get it done. When you talk about taking possession of Comex contracts, like I was saying, very few ever do. It is a very sophisticated thing, and you better have contacts. A company like mine could do that. We have enough contacts, but the point of it is that, everyone thought Bernie Madoff was running a tight ship until people started to stand for delivery. And when you realize that if enough people stood for delivery, then all of a sudden the thing blows up, like happened to Bernie Madoff. Now, in this ecosystem, the people that are standing for delivery right now, I would argue, are the countries of the Southern Hemisphere and of the East. They understand this is the Achilles heel. So at this point, we haven't seen things blow up. But I will tell you that something very interesting happened a few weeks ago. Going back to the second week in March, if you go to the Shanghai Gold Exchange website, you will see that in the second week of March, for 4 straight weeks, you had 4 banks show up, starting with, I think it was Deutsche Bank, Standard Chartered, JP Morgan, and HSBC Bank. These all are very big traders that are active in metal suppression. Well, HSBC Bank is probably one of the top 2 most crooked banks on the planet, and they are the custodian of GLD. JP Morgan, of course, paid a $920 million fine to the Justice Department 2 years ago for suppressing the metals market. Their head trader, who I had lunch with, Michael Nowak, is in prison. And the other 2 banks, Standard Charter and Deutsche Bank, have massive short positions. Now, the question being, why did they show up at the Shanghai Gold Exchange? Because you cannot export gold out of China. You can only export silver out of China. And if you look at the Shanghai Gold Exchange silver inventory since that week, they've fallen straight down to their lowest level right now in a long, long time. Since that day, silver's corrected, whereby I believe that they were getting redemption demands on the LBMA, where, again, they're trading 3.5 times global mine supply, yearly mine supply in a day, and these countries are now standing for delivery. It could blow up the system. So I find it interesting that almost to the day that they showed up and they listed on their website, not only has the silver inventories in the Shanghai Metals Exchange completely fall off the cliff, but so too did the price correct. It's as if they were gathering enough silver to meet delivery redemption requests. And by letting the price fall, maybe this will be the last time that they hoodwink the managed money into going short, and the commercial banks go long. And instead of shorting a rising price, they let the price run. That's the hallmark of the manipulation, is that they will always suck in the speculators, the hedge funds, by letting the price rise. When the hedge funds go long, that means the commercial banks go short. They take the other side. And as the commercial banks continue to pile into the shorts as the price is rising. They overwhelm it and they crush it. Most people would tell you the dumbest thing in the world you could ever do would be to short a rising market. You look at AMC and GameStop, people made all the money by shorting a market that was being collapsed. If you short a rising market, you better have big ass checkbook to be able to continue to overwhelm all of those people that are pushing it up long. And that's what the commercial banks do. And they can always overwhelm it. And those longs capitulate. The options expire worthless. We haven't reached a point yet where there's been such a massive demand for delivery that it overwhelms the system. But I would argue we have never, ever, ever, ever been closer. I believe there is a collective realization by these countries that this is how you beat the West, is by standing for delivery. It is an option you can do. And all it will take is one big bullion bank, which when I say bullion bank, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Deutsche Bank, HSBC. These are not just bullion banks. These are the biggest banks in the world that are systemically tied together. One of them fails to deliver. Bernie Madoff situation, Ponzi scheme realization, and everyone runs as fast as they can. Give me my stuff, where the whole thing implodes, and it's a daisy chain reaction. We haven't seen that, fortunately, yet, but it is a Ponzi scheme that they are running in every sense of the word. And this is probably why we are seeing such massive deliveries. 30,000 contracts delivered for the June gold contract off of Comex. It's 3 million ounces of gold. A few weeks before that, 500 million ounces of gold, or $500 million worth of gold delivered to Brinks Hong Kong, which, by the way, most people don't know. In 2015, the CME group, which is the Comex, created a contract that is deliverable in Hong Kong to a Brinks facility, which is a Comex facility. And it's interesting that that delivery was all in kilo bars. Kilo bars are what is traded on the Shanghai Metals Exchange. It is not traded on Comex. Most of what is traded in Comex is 100-ounce bars, but they do have mini contracts where they do have kilo bars. Everything that was delivered to Hong Kong 5 weeks ago was kilos. The theory is these countries, through proxy banks or sovereign wealth funds, will buy massive amounts. They will short the paper price in the West, stand for delivery in China at Brinks Hong Kong, massive amounts of gold and silver, and then immediately truck it over to the Shanghai Metals Exchange, where it can be sold to the rest of the world, like Iran, who can sell their oil to China for yuan and then immediately convert it into gold on the Shanghai Gold Exchange for immediate delivery. It is a cash and carry exchange. There has been so much demand going in and out of these exchanges in Shanghai that over the past 75 days, it's increased by over 200% in terms of volume, which is now surpasses the Comex market. The Shanghai Gold Exchange and the Shanghai Futures Exchange, when combined, now surpass the volume of Comex, making it the second most significant metals market in the world behind the LBMA. And so we are seeing a system where gold and silver in physical possession is being recognized as the most important thing by the most important and well-informed traders on the globe. So when we talk about gold and silver, to me, again, it is wealth, and it is wealth free from counterparty risk, free from sanctions, free from confiscation, free from default. And this is the way that the biggest money in the world is looking at it. And for me, I don't think you need to know much more than that, because these people at that level always win the game. They're always ahead of everybody else. They're always the ones that are making the moves before the collective wisdom of everyone gels enough to where they realize, oh boy, I better do that too. Well, those people have been in that position for a long time before that happens. And in fact, by that time, they're probably looking somewhere else. So I guess I would just simply say to you, the likelihood of seeing that moment where there is a realization comes when there is a default. Will there be a default? Don't know. We've never been closer to it ever. And I would think the probability of it is growing by the day. And this is why I think it is an indictment of the current system that you've seen almost 30 countries repatriate all of their gold from the Bank of England and the New York Fed. Let me give you the countries that have done so just in the past couple of years. All right. Here are the countries that have repatriated their gold just in the last few years. Germany, Austria, Slovakia, Argentina, the Netherlands, Saudi Arabia, Hungary, Belgium, Egypt, Senegal, Romania, Nigeria, Poland, Ghana, India, Turkey, France, Serbia, Venezuela, Algeria, Cameroon, South Africa, and Czechoslovakia. All of these countries have repatriated their gold from the New York Fed or the Bank of England because they understand not only is it tier one, but that the counterparty risk, the systemic risk of this system is such that it's more important to hold it yourself than to trust what was once considered the West a system that inspired trust. It no longer has trust, and the ramifications of this, and the banking system, and the loss of the petro standard, and all of these things are playing together, where owning metals in your own possession honestly has a new significance that it never once did.
Sir, let's zoom right there on that. As we bridge that all that information that you just said, and then we take into account what we saw in the past with the Hunt brothers in the 80s and the Wall Street silver squeeze, I believe it was 20 or 21, maybe the early part of 22. People saw how there was a run to acquire silver. Let's just keep it at silver for now. And they saw that both of those, well, the Hunt brothers got smacked down by the government, and the silver squeeze, the Wall Street silver squeeze, got kind of smacked down a little bit by COVID and a little bit by the media paid it no mind. So I want to zoom on everything that you just said, keeping in mind our viewers, since we're an educational channel, they're aware of what happened to the Hunt brothers. They're aware of what happened in the silver squeeze. And I want you to, if you could, tie all that huge information, keeping in mind Hunt brothers and the silver squeeze, to the regular viewer that's watching this channel every day, and say, this is why, or this is how it relates to you and why you need to get your hands on some silver and gold.
Well, the Hunt brothers noticed the exact same. Did you want to say something, Robert?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. I know that there was a purchase of about $50 million worth of silver recently, and I've heard wind that there was another large purchase out there in the wind. I don't think the contract's been made, but I just wanted to squeeze that into what JB just said, because I think that may tell a story.
Yeah,
So
we actually, both of those deals were done last year, but I will explain that after too. So the situation we have right now is very emblematic of the situation that we had in 1980 with the Hunt brothers, where the realization was that there are way more contracts issued than there are bars standing behind it. So that they bought up every contract they could, and they stood for delivery. Well, that's what these countries are doing right now. The difference is that the Comex then changed the rules, and they said, well, you can be short as much as you want, but you can only be long a certain amount. And so all of those contracts that they then accumulated had to be sold. It was illegal to hold that many. They basically, changed the rules to beat the Hunt brothers at what was their legal ability to do it. And that's what you could do. No one did it, but they did. And so they changed the rules on them. If we go to silver squeeze, you had this realization, and it's interesting. There was a comment by Jeffrey Curry recently, who he kind of did a faux pas, right? And Jeffrey Curry was the head commodity trader for Goldman Sachs, talking about silver squeeze, which was, you were right, it was February 2021 is when it started, and capturing the momentum of GameStop and AMC movies. Jeffrey Curry says something to the extent of, the American public thinks that they can squeeze the market. They'll never be able to, because they buy ETFs, and the ETFs are the shorts. In essence, the ETFs go into the market and short what they buy, just like any other corporate does. Now, what he just said is such bullshit, it's not even funny, pardon my French, because yes, if I have 50,000 or 100,000 ounces of silver in my warehouse that I hold right here, I will short on Comex the exact same amount. So as they go market neutral, one goes up, one goes down, exactly commensurate, I'm always market neutral. I have to hedge my position. But an ETF, which the custodians are JP Morgan and HSBC Bank, and why would they ever hedge metal in an ETF that is for speculation? If you hedge the metal that is in there for speculation, in other words, you're selling it into the market, is the biggest crock I've ever heard in my life. You are hedging a speculation. How's that work? It'll never go anywhere. You'll never move if you are hedged. That is the purpose of a hedge. What he did was he blew himself up by admitting that they are in essence, naked selling their customers' metal into the market to control the price. And I've always said GLD and SLV are massive tools of manipulation. It's very funny, but the point is that these people thought that they could, beating a hedge fund who is shorting a stock like AMC or GameStop is a whole hell of a lot different than beating a bullion bank like JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs and whatnot. The American public who is jumping on, a fad in, with Wall Street silver and the silver squeeze. It was cool to be a part of it. I've never been so busy in my life, but we represent but a pimple on the elephant's rear end. When you're talking about sovereign governments, however, like China, India, Russia, Saudi Arabia, with massive amounts of money and sophistication and coordination, it's a different story. And the different story is that they stand for delivery in amounts that, one central bank in one delivery can stand for delivery more than everyone who participated in Silver Squeeze bought collectively. 500 million just like that, 500 million just like that, 500 million just like that. And they keep draining the exchanges using that delivery mechanism. So it's very reminiscent. So bottom line is Comex in 1980 changed the rules on the Hunt brothers. The public who was buying silver to squeeze the commercial banks, it was neat and it was fun to be part of, but it ain't ever going to happen. You get the whole public involved. Well, you got a different thing, not just this tiny little growing chorus of younger people who think, yeah, let's buy silver and squeeze it. Ain't going to work. But when you get the biggest, most powerful banks in the world who are saying, and countries, governments who are saying, well, this is how we win, guys, this is how we win. That's a whole different ball of wax. And I would ask you, why the hell did these four banks show up at the Shanghai Metals Exchange? My guess is they said, listen, we need your help. We're getting overwhelmed with delivery. If we don't get this silver from you guys that you're holding, the whole system will blow up, and that won't help you either. Now, they didn't do this out of benevolence, the Chinese, if they did indeed give the silver to these commercial banks to meet redemption requirements. There's obviously quid pro quo, and they're not making it easy because silver in Shanghai is $4 an ounce higher than it is on Comex or in London. If you have access to be able to buy in the West and deliver in the East, you'll get a $4 arbitrage premium. Right now, it was at 2 before, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4. It keeps growing. They are siphoning everything they can that is not nailed down. And to your point, this is the first time that I've ever seen anything that is actually capable of challenging the Western system. And it is the Achilles heel to the Western system because the banks that we call bullion banks are the biggest commercial banks in the world. And they are all tied together. And one of them goes upside down and isn't able to deliver. Everyone will go and pull their money out. Give me my gold now. And the whole thing blows up. So are we close to it? Closer than we ever were. Closer than in 1980. Closer than in 2021. Because two brothers or a small group of a profit-driven public is nowhere near the power of the Bank of India, the Bank of China, the Bank of Saudi Arabia, the Bank of Russia, the Bank of all of these BRICS nations who are playing the same game. Heck, Nigeria just said, give us all our gold back. You got small African companies, Senegal and Serbia and Algeria and, Czechoslovakia. These aren't massive countries, but in coordination, they sure as hell are. And this is how the whole system breaks apart. Little by little by little, then bang, all at once. I call it logarithmic decay. The little by little is the massive acquisition by all these central banks. And the repatriation, the realization that this is a game that is a Ponzi scheme is the all at once. We're not there yet, but I think it could happen. I really do. And I think we're closer to it than I've ever seen in my career.
There you go.
Yeah. What I was going to say is, JB, let's go to what you were talking about, the chart. And you have a question?
Well, it's kind of funny how you say the coordination. Well, we're seeing some massive coordination going on with the BRICS. And I used to look at the debt clock every day until it started really having an adverse effect on my health. So I was like, okay, I'll keep it to a once a week. Last couple of weeks, I've been kind of busy. So yesterday, I just happened to check the debt clock out, and I saw something that blew me away. In the far right-hand corner, we have BRICS GDP to gold. And I wanted to bring that to your attention. I'm sure you've seen it. It blew me away that the BRICS GDP has now entered the debt clock. And it tells me that some people are actually paying attention, because sometimes when I'm in the Pentagon, I feel like I'm Paul Revere. I'm yelling, running down the halls saying, the BRICS are coming, the BRICS are coming, the BRICS are coming, and nobody's listening. And it's awe-inspiring to me that people don't realize that the days of the U.S. hegemony that we've all enjoyed living under for the last 40, 50, 30, 20, 10 years, no matter how old you are, those days are being challenged. And I'd love for you to speak a little bit about BRICS. And I'm going to follow up with one question about BRICS after you're done.
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking about BRICS in over 3,000 YouTube videos now for the better part of 4 years. And it's a deal where I think to not understand exactly what's going on with the BRICS is it's going to be a rude awakening to most people. When you see recently what's been happening, and I don't know how up to speed your listeners are on the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, China, India, South Africa, and then you add on the other 5 that joined last year in Egypt and Ethiopia and Iran and Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, big ones, of course. And there was a meeting in Novgorod, Russia last week where it came out that not only have they agreed on their common settlement currency, which we need to talk about, but that 59 more countries have said we're signing up to the BRICS. They already have a larger swath of global GDP, as is. They already have a much larger portion of human population. They have 2 of the 3 largest nuclear arsenals on the planet, actually 3 of the 4, with India, China, and Russia. They have the majority of all of the rare earths. In fact, JP Morgan just published a report saying that China produces between 60 and 80% of all the rare earths, most of which are on the Eurasian continent. But last year, they refined 100% refined all of the rare earth. The Chinese bought the London Metals Exchange a few years ago. Those are all the metals that are traded in London, not the LBMA, which are precious metals, but things like copper and steel and zinc and lead. And now they are building warehouses in China to warehouse the metal traded on the London Metals Exchange. They have struck deals all around the world in their Belt Road Initiative, which are all the same countries that are going to be part of the BRICS. And it is the largest infrastructure project in human history, connecting Asia, Africa, and South America through bridges, roads, and maritime channels, and will only be patrolled by military and commerce. It is all of these under-industrialized countries that are resource rich. They are building oil wells and refineries, gold and silver mines. They're building mines to pull out all of these commodities, from precious metals to base metals to rare earths to you name it, giving the ability to bring it to the market and industrializing in a cooperative manner. We are seeing safety in numbers as more and more and more countries sign on to the BRICS and to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which is the largest regional financial and military organization in the world. Military. You had Saudi Arabia and Iran both join the SCO recently. You will see them being formally, the Shanghai Cooperation, inserted into the BRICS along with the Eurasian Economic Union. When you put these entities together, the Eurasian Economic Union, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Belt Road, and the BRICS, it's 90% of human population. It's the majority of all the commodities on the planet, the majority of all the shipping lanes and trade routes, the majority of all the rare earths, everything you are putting into a group, an entity that is pushing back against the Western hegemony. When you talk about recent developments that came out of the BRICS, the biggest one would be Saudi Arabia becoming a full member of Project M-Bridge, as in money bridge, M-Bridge. I've talked about this for 2 years. It is a cross-border payment system that does not use the SWIFT. in fact, is not capable of, it is not, the dollar is not able to trade on Enbridge. And Enbridge allows these countries to trade central bank digital currencies with one another without being susceptible to sanctions via SWIFT. So what's interesting about it is that Saudi Arabia has now become a full participant in Project Enbridge, a full participant. You're talking the largest producer of oil in the world is now a full participant in Project Enbridge. And they're at the meeting in Novigrad where they came out and said, yeah, 59 countries want to join. You had the head of the BRICS New Development Bank, Delma Rousseff, came out and said, we have decided in principle on a new settlement currency. It's called the unit. You can go and Google the unit and go to their website, read the white paper as I did and their Q&A, and you'll be blown away. In essence, what it is a basket of commodities. Now, actually, let me just rephrase that. I've been saying for 3 years that they will do this. There will be a basket of commodities and a basket of currencies because the economic advisor for the Eurasian Economic Union and one of the main Russian finance ministers, Sergei Glaziev, he's the architect of it. He told us this, that there would be a currency, settlement currency backed by gold and other commodities and a basket of currencies. Well, they've refined it because I think a basket of commodities becomes too challenging, but a basket of gold won't be. What is gold? Oh, that's right. The BIS said it's the only other tier 1 asset. Who's been buying all the gold? Oh, that's right. All of those countries. What have they been doing with their gold? Oh, that's right. They've been repatriating it. And if you read what the unit is, it is a currency unit that is 40% gold, 60% local currencies of the BRICS plus countries. And in the white paper, you know, I've always said the only way that you would make this work is to have it audited, have it held in a central location and audited. I was thinking a common settlement, a common currency. But what they have done is basically say, no, all of these countries can keep their gold within their own sovereign borders, which is why they're all bringing it back and why they're all accumulating it, because they know the playbook. Because who's involved with Project Enbridge? Oh, that's right. It's also the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements, who reclassified gold as what? Oh, yeah, the only other tier 1 asset in the world. And they are letting these countries keep their gold and the currency that they pull out of circulation once it's attributed to the unit in in essence, escrow account within their own borders that will be independently audited. And I don't know how often, but progressively audited. And so it allows these countries to keep their gold at home, but it also, the whole point of Project Enbridge is not to have one BRICS currency, but to allow all of these countries to have their own monetary authority, to remain autonomous from the unit, to have their own central bank digital currencies, to trade those central bank digital currencies freely over Project Enbridge, which allows them to do so free from the interference of SWIFT, but to settle everything in the new settlement currency, which will be 40% gold. In order to mint a new unit, you have to have 60% of currency of the member nations and 40% gold, which is held within their own borders. The fact that they're repatriating it should scream, oh, that makes sense. And now you have an asset that you can settle in. And when you think about all the transactions being done in local currencies and settlement being done in the Project Enbridge unit, you have a situation. By the way, Saudi Arabia is a full participant in Project Enbridge and has joined the BRICS and has joined the BRICS New Development Bank and has joined the Belt Road Initiative along with every other OPEC country. Do you see this progression and all the commodities that they are building and the unification of pushing back against the sanctions and the hegemony of the West? They are doing this methodically, but gold will be center stage because it is the only other tier 1 asset. Now, it's also very interesting when you talk about what gold could ultimately do. The finance minister from the Dutch National Bank said, well, I know that our debt and our balance sheet is turning negative, but we have all this gold on our balance sheet in the gold revaluation account. And even though we're not able to use it as an asset against a liability right now, we know it's there. Think of what he just said. All of the gold held in central bank balance sheets, believe it or not, is held in what's called the gold revaluation account. Could that be for not? Over my shoulder there you have Roosevelt, who confiscated gold in 33 and revalued gold by devaluing the dollar by 40%, making the gold stockpile that the U.S. confiscated and held worth 40% more. All of these countries who are accumulating gold and want to use it in this new unit currency, 40% value in the unit currency, what is the likelihood that all of these countries who are massively accumulating gold, repatriating it at the same time creating huge amounts of debt? All of these countries are creating massive debt, right? How do you make your debt look better? Because currently in the revaluation account, gold is not able to be as an asset to be used to offset a liability of debt. Also, all of these central banks hold gold at $35 an ounce on their balance sheet. What if you make gold 10,000 an ounce to be tied to a new system? All of a sudden, your balance sheet went from horse crap to pristine, just like that. And who owns all the gold? Oh, it's mostly the central banks. Are we going to use gold to back a new system? Yeah, evidently we are. And so the removal of counterparty risk by taking it away from the Bank of England and the New York Fed, the tool of sanctions, holding it within your own borders, being able to transact with all of these countries that are joining, 59 more, every one of the OPEC countries on the Belt Road. The Belt Road in and of itself, 75% of human population right now, 50% of global GDP. Put all of this stuff together, and little by little by little by little by little, this union is becoming very, very daunting, militarily, human population wise, GDP wise, transactionally, commodities, all of it. And they are not something to take lightly. And the fact that most people look past this is because the time in which it's taken for this to be done methodically flies in the face of the way people look at the world these days, that instant gratification is not quick enough. NVIDIA made people wealthy just like that, didn't it? And Apple and Bitcoin. So this is taking so long. Let's dismiss it. It's a nothing burger. Forget it. That's the biggest mistake people will ever make, including the people in the White House who, if they don't notice it, are walking right into a very, very big problem, because the ability to live beyond our means, largely at the expense of the good graces of our foreign creditors, has been because Saudi Arabia agreed to value oil in dollars globally through OPEC for the past 50 years. They did not re-sign that exclusivity deal a few weeks ago. Now they're open to selling in any currency they want. How about the unit? Because after all, they are full participants in Enbridge. They are part of the Belt Road. They are in the BRICS New Development Bank. They are in the BRICS, and they are in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the largest regional military organization in the world, and financial. So, yeah, I think it's never been more important to look at gold very differently than we ever did. And the fact that the price hasn't exploded is why people don't get it. But what they don't get is, let's just take Bitcoin out of the equation for a moment. If we go back to 2000, gold has appreciated by 9.9% per year compounding for 24 years. It has outpaced everything. It has doubled the performance of the bond market. And that's why you're seeing this divergence between the price of gold and real interest rates. Rates keep going higher, but gold keeps going higher. Not supposed to be that way. It's because the big traders around the world, they don't care about the rates. They don't care about a strong dollar or these pairings where, if you have high rates because gold doesn't pay any interest, they don't care. They want the gold. Gold keeps going higher. Rates keep going higher because these countries are selling bonds to buy gold. That's why rates are going higher. They are dumping treasuries to buy gold because it has no counterparty liability and will be the backbone of a new system. Because the petrodollar deal said, yes, you'll sell oil in dollars, and then you take all the excess and put it into treasuries. Well, after watching the West steal the Russian treasuries and give the proceeds in the form of munitions to fund the Ukrainian war against the Russians, who in their right mind would hold our treasuries? Not to mention all of the debt. We are accumulating $1 trillion of debt every 100 days. We have a debt of $35 trillion on top of, speaking of the debt clock, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and government military pensions that exceed 150 trillion. And a trillion seconds ago was 31,688 years ago. The treasuries are being forsaken for gold, which has no counterparty risk, which has outpaced everything, including the S&P 500 over that same period of time, even with dividends reinvested. And no one notices it because it's the tortoise, not the hare, much like the progression, the 17, 18-year progression of the BRICS, which is the tortoise, not the hare. But I will say, over the past several weeks, the acceleration that we are seeing with the BRICS is something that I think will very soon catch people's eyes. And the big meeting, the big meeting is in October in Russia, where they announce which of these 59 countries that have applied will actually be admitted this go around. And quite frankly, we are in Bretton Woods 3, and they understand that. Bretton Woods 1 is when we took over for the pound sterling at the end of World War II. Bretton Woods, and that was in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. Bretton Woods 2 would be loosely, wasn't official, but loosely when we became the petrodollar in June of 1974. Bretton Woods 3 is now. The Saudis didn't re-up the deal. And as Zoltan Pozar calls it, a system that will be all about transparency, a la blockchain, and commodities. Who's got them all? Well, they got the LME. They're buying all the gold. They produce and refine all of the rare earths. They just announced the BRICS Grain Exchange. And in announcing it, let me read to you one quick thing here about the BRICS, the way that they announced the grain exchange. And this falls right into the way that they understand the commodities. Where do I have that? So, okay, it says, this is why they're draining the system, right? Because they know what we're doing. They say the BRICS grain exchange is likely to change the face of the world grain market tremendously, the Russian officials believe. The existing global grain market infrastructure was formed following the Second World War when the U.S. wheat and corn exports dominated the market, the ministry said. Although U.S. exports no longer play the role they used to, global prices are primarily determined by the Chicago Commodity Exchange. Moscow seeks to move away from the trading grain for U.S. dollars in favor of the national currencies of the BRICS member states. The ministry insists that the BRICS countries are the largest grain producers and exporters, but have no leverage to influence the prices of the agricultural commodities critical for their food security. The BRICS Commodity Exchange will solve this problem. And that is no different than the head of the Shanghai Gold Exchange in 2015 saying when China is allowed to speak at the table, the real price of gold will be observed. What I'm getting at is that we are moving into a period of time where it ain't about debt instruments, opaque debt instruments of another country, which have a sliver of historical precedent in time where, yeah, another country's debt is an asset. Bullshit. How about gold and silver and platinum and food and oil and rare earths and copper and steel and all of these things that you need? Well, now they realize that the way to beat us is to use the suppression of all these commodities that we hold down to make the Western system seem stronger than it is, in particular the bond market, stand for delivery, and then create your own exchanges. The Moscow Metals Exchange, the new Moscow Grain Exchange, the Metals Exchange in Dubai or in Shanghai. All of these exchanges will become far more relevant. And you can see the Shanghai Metals Exchange has already outpaced the Comex. So we're getting to a point where it is all about he who has the gold, it's used to say, makes the rules. I would say he who has the commodities makes the rules. And that is exactly what these BRICS nations are all about. And at the expense of the US dollar and the US Treasury market to transact and to settle only makes it that much more serious and that much more concerning.
I was talking to somebody the other day and I was talking to somebody the other day and I was telling them about the BRICS and they said, oh, that's over there. That's over there. And I was like, hold on. Brazil is in our hemisphere. And the other day, an amazing story broke. I had no idea. China is building one of the most technologically advanced deep water ports in the country of Peru. So you have Brazil on the east coast of South America. Now you're going to have a deep water, highly technologically advanced port on the west coast of South America. So is Peru, Peru could possibly be one of those countries that goes into the BRICS next. If you already have
Peru, what does Peru do? What is Peru responsible for? They are the number 1 or 2 producers of silver in the world.
They're rivals with Mexico.
It's Mexico and Peru are the 2 biggest silver producers on the planet.
I did not know that. Wow. That's something that really makes you go, oh. I mean, that's like a watershed moment where you're like, oh, Peru puts out as much silver or almost as much silver as Mexico.
And you want to hear something else? If you Google it, which I just did, China builds port in Peru as part of Belt and Road Initiative. Well, what do you know? The Belt and Road Initiative, the largest infrastructure project in human history, connecting all of these countries and giving them safety in numbers and allowing them to industrialize and sell their commodities globally away from Western interference. This is all happening, and it's being done so methodically, Brandon, very methodically. And you can, it's a noble endeavor to try and open people's eyes. Most people will brush it off until they see it with their own eyes, but it doesn't take much digging to find that this is happening in a country like Peru, which is the second largest producer of silver on the planet, maybe number one. In fact, I'll Google it. Is Peru, let's look and see, is Peru or Mexico number one in silver production globally? Let's see what Google says. The top 10 silver producing countries. Oh, okay. Mexico 1, China 2, Peru 3, Chile 4, Australia 5, Poland 6, Bolivia, Russia, United States, and Argentina. So it's right there. That's number 3 behind China. Well, China's in it, and in the Belt Road, and now Peru, and Mexico has expressed interest in joining the BRICS. And so you're talking about all of these decisions that need to be made. They're becoming real serious, and that's one of them.
And 2 of those countries are neighbors of Peru, Chile and Bolivia. So now you've got a highly technologically advanced deep water port in Peru that's going to rival the ports of LA and San Francisco. And you've got 3 of the largest silver producers on the top 10 list in close proximity that are going to be able to use that port. The Belt and Road Initiative is something I think a lot of people need to pay attention to.
Absolutely.
I mean, it just cannot be overstated.
The point of it is, with all of this, you guys, is that it's all tied together. And then, like I say to people, look, if it were just the way we've mismanaged the dollar and even weaponizing it against Russia, we'd be okay if this country was what it once was. The world you grew up in as part of the military, you understand respect for your for authority. You understand how to do things the right way. And you look at a country that's admitted 18 million people illegally. So let's check mark. Immigration system, check. A country where I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, you're going to say, is the judicial system, is it fair? Is it applied equally to all people, or is there 2-tiered? Check. The electoral system, is it fair or is it not? There are questions. Check. Lawlessness in the inner cities. Check. Wokeness, move away from the nuclear family. All of this stuff that has created massive divisiveness in this country, on top of the fact that we're creating $1 trillion of debt every 100 days. It took 200 years to do that the first time. What has happened in this country, it makes people say, what the hell is going on? Their judicial system, their electoral system, their immigration system, the crazy wokeness, all of what's going on in their inner cities, all of this goes hand in hand with a bigger theory. And speech that I'm giving next week here in Boca at Rick Rule's Symposium is basically titled, "Is it too stupid to be stupid?" The lead economic advisor to the United States government, many of your listeners may have seen him make a fool of himself on Twitter, X, Jared Bernstein. Well, his whole thesis is to lose the reserve status. It is a privilege we can no longer afford. So by signing an executive order to go green, by weaponizing the dollar, by letting the country fall apart and letting all these unions be formalized, we've certainly taken a very big step in that manner. And if you look at the number 2 lead economic advisor, it's Lael Brainerd, and she's a modern monetary theorist along with knucklehead Bernstein, and she wants to have a central bank digital currency. In fact, she developed it with MIT while she was at the Boston Fed. She left the Fed and is now number 2 under Bernstein at the White House. She also ran Point for Fed Now, which came out about 8 months ago. Fed Now is Venmo and Zelle on steroids, backed by the Fed. And there's a high probability that they release it, which will get rid of checks and wires. It will be sending Fed Now just like that. So if you go to buy a car and you strike a deal with the car dealership, you don't have to leave, go to the bank and send them a wire. You can just FedNow them right from your phone. And so when you talk about all of these things, is it too stupid to be stupid? Or do they understand that there are consequences for weaponizing the dollar, for going green, for allowing our country to become a laughingstock in all of the things that made this country special? And I don't know. I'll let you all decide that. But I think, recency bias and normalcy bias is stupid if you look at the BRICS singular that way and you don't look at the country we live in and say, is it different than it used to be completely and totally? And, I think it is in every single way. This merit-based society we used to have is out the window. And instead it's, what's your social preference and how do you define yourself? And I went on a tour of colleges with my youngest daughter the other day, and the right away this gal says, I believe very much in gender, whatever, and I go by her, she, or what. And I'm like, can we go now? Can we leave? The point of it is that it all goes hand in hand. All of this stuff here and there. And it's never been more important, I think, let me just say it this way, unconventional times call for unconventional thought and actions. And when you see the biggest money in the world, the largest oil producer in the world, the biggest central banks in the world, and the most powerful bank on the planet, do all of these things, say all of these things, and it doesn't matter what the price is doing. The price is a tool of misdirection achieved by trading massive amounts of leverage on a corrupt Ponzi scheme platform called the LBMA and the Comex. And when it's all said and done, the real price of gold will be revealed just the way the chairman of the Shanghai Gold Exchange said it would. And so, yeah, I don't hope for any of this. I got 3 kids. My youngest is 17, and I hope I'm wrong. But I think we are heading into a period of time that will greatly impact the standard of living in this country, because if you realize that every single country in the world has had to stockpile dollars for 50 years to buy oil, well, that's over now. What happens when this slow de-dollarization turns into a greater realization and it speeds up and speeds up and speeds up and everyone dumps? When that happens, you hit a tsunami of dollars because there's way more money outside the U.S. in dollars than inside, because everyone's had to stockpile them to buy commodities. When all those dollars come rushing home and hit our shores, that becomes hyperinflation. Just like that. The byproduct of hyperinflation would be interest rates that have to rise to compensate for the loss of value in the dollar, not controlled by the Fed, but by the market. You have 30% inflation, you can't have 5% interest rates, your currency dies. So you have 30% interest rates. What happens to the banks? Boom, gone. What happens to the insurance companies that are 90% treasuries? Boom, gone. Stock market, bond market, real estate market, boom. There is your great. But have no fear, because Lil Brainerd is here. All you guys got to do is sign on the dotted line, take the CBDC, and you too will be made whole. How do you roll out a CBDC that no one wants? You create an event. And my mentor, Richard Russell, God rest his soul, always said that the Fed was trapped. This was 20 years ago. They're trapped. They have too much debt. They can only inflate or default. Inflate or die, he always used to say. How about option 3? Find a villain. Xi Jinping, Putin, OPEC, and the BRICS. They did it to us. These bastards did it to us. Everything collapses. And further making it interesting is Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and government military pensions. That's the $150 trillion that's all owed to the American public. And when you talk about a $35 trillion debt, roughly $7 to $8 trillion is owed to foreigners. Who's been selling all of the bonds? Them, China, Russia, India, Saudi. They're all dumping bonds. We're supposed to believe that Cayman Islands, UK, who have their own problems, and Ireland, who have their own problems, are buying all our bonds. Jim Willie says they're being funded under the table to create that illusion. But who's been buying all the bonds? Oh, yeah, that's us. The hedge funds, the money markets, the banks, and all the people chasing yield. After zero-bound interest rates for 2 decades, now everyone's buying treasuries. So when they default, because it was their fault for dumping the dollar, even though we incentivized it by weaponization and going green and letting the country go to shit. Now they can come in and say to the country, listen, they did this to us, but all you got to do is take the CBDC. We know you've lost everything. Take it. We're modern monetary theorists. It's a new system. We're going to protect our own. Let's go. And that's how you get people to take it. Now, everything I have said up until this point is fact. Putting the dots together, well, that's what I've been trying to do for 4 years with this thesis. And the scary part about it all is almost everything I've said publicly in over almost 4,000 YouTube videos that are still out there has happened. And I don't have a crystal ball, but it scares the hell out of me how fast it has happened. And the fact that it has happened when no one was saying it, I saw it clearly. And now everyone's talking about it, but no one is saying this is done intentionally. And I think it is. You can't be that stupid to do what we are doing and without thinking the ramifications become extraordinary. And they are. And I think there will come a moment when all of those people who say, oh, that's nothing, Brandon, that's nothing, they're over there, will realize that was the biggest mistake and underestimation they ever made. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep trying politely to wake people up. It's a noble effort. I have found you can only save the world one person at a time, starting with yourself and your immediate family. But keep trying. You have a platform here. Keep trying and citing facts, and maybe you reach 1 or 2 people a day. Great. You're doing your part. And that's 1 or 2 less people that get run over by what is coming.
I'll tell you what, Andy, I've got a question here that may not make it onto any video, and I'd like to have your point of view on it. And my wife is a foreigner. She came legally, but she's a Filipino. And I thought about going back there to visit and possibly take some gold back there and build a house, something of that nature. Doing so, as you said, gold is a tier 1 asset. Why is it that when you cross borders with it now, and I don't know if you know this or not, but I just found out because it sort of shocked me. On the forums now, it is construed as a non-monetary instrument. Do you have any idea what that stands for? Now, I can let you know real quick. I do have a Brad, one of the people that's on our panel. We're going to get a lawyer involved and see if we can't discern what the heck this actually means, because I told him my theory is I think that the reason they've got it this way is people with a lot of money are moving it. Are they moving it to this government or out of this government? I don't know. But I just find that to be almost an oxymoron to where I can't make sense of it.
Well, I brought 240 gold maple leafs back from Canada a few years ago when gold was $1,200 an ounce. A client of mine in Montreal asked me to bring it back to the U.S. where we have vaulting, and he's one of my biggest clients. We have a vault in Montreal with Brinks. It was our inaugural Brinks facility. We now have 9 through North America. And I've been telling people forever that it is the face value. Now you're talking gold in and of itself, a bar of gold. They would say it, whatever the value is, non-monetary, meaning that it's not a monetary metal, but that it doesn't have a face value. So an ounce of gold or a Krugerrand, which has no face value, is an ounce of gold and its value. But I bought 240 maple leafs back from Canada, and I've been telling everyone, and we wrote reports on this that I can send to you, that basically say that it's the face value that matters. So I came back, I check into Montreal Airport. I have global entry, meaning I've been vetted by Homeland Security. I say I have 200, and I checked, I have more than $10,000 on me. And he said, what do you got, Mr. Schectman? I said, I have 240 gold maple leafs, but I don't want to declare them. And because, well, actually, I take that back. I said, I do want to declare them. It's on here. I have 240 gold maple leafs. And the guy says to me, because they weren't mine, and 240 on maple leafs times 50 is 12,000. So sorry, it's been a long time that this happened. Gold was 1,200, so it's been 7-8 years ago. But anyways, he says, well, you're going to need to go to further screening. And when you go into airports in Canada, coming back to the United States, you're going through immigration and customs in that airport. You have United States Homeland Security agents in the airport in Canada, in Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. He says, you're going to need to go to further screening. And he shuts off the light of his booth and parades me down a 45-degree ramp into the bowels of the Montreal airport where they don't hear you scream. And the whole thing is stainless steel and mirrors. And he says, sit down, have a seat. Someone will be with you shortly, and don't open your bags. And I turn around, he's gone. I'm in a room about the size of a small auditorium that's all mirrors. And, they're watching me. And I sit there for what amounts to about 30 minutes before a supervisor, Homeland Security supervisor, comes out, and he says, all right, Mr. Schectman, what do you got? And I said, like I told your associate, I have 240 gold maple leafs, but I'm only declaring $12,000 because they're $50 face value coins. And I said, it's legal tender. He says, I'm inclined to believe you. He says, but let me ask you a few questions. How much is gold today? And I said, well, it's $1,200. He says, well, isn't that about $300,000? I said, yes, sir, it is, but it is legal tender. And therefore, it's only the $12,000 that matters. And he says, here again, I'm inclined to believe you. But in the meantime, he said, let me borrow one of your coins here. I'm going to go do some research on it. In the meantime, you fill out this FinCEN form. And I forget the exact what the acronym is, but it's a form you never want to see. And it's financial investigation, criminal investigation. They basically wanted to know how I got there, what was the plane number, how long have I been in the country, what am I bringing back, how did I get it, what are the denominations, what's the value, what's your social security number, what's your address in the United States, all of this stuff. And I wanted nothing to do with it. I'm like, oh man, this isn't even my stuff. So I fill it out begrudgingly, and the guy comes back and he says, I'll be damned, Mr. Schectman, you're right. Here's your coin back. Let me see the FinCEN form. And I hand it to him. He says, I almost forgot. How much money you got in your wallet? And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And I said, I open it up. I'm like $37. And he says, is that all the money you have? I said, yes, sir. He says, are you sure? Now I'm kind of like, shit. I mean, do I have something in my backpack that I don't even know about? I said, look, I might have some change in the bottom of my backpack, but yeah, to the best of my ability and best of my knowledge, that's all I have. And he tears up the FinCEN form and he's like, okay, you're free to go. And he hands me back my coin. And I'm like, all right, listen, I've been in here for 45 minutes. Could you at least tell me what's going on and why I'm free to go without declaration? He says, I figured you'd ask that. He says, you're entering the United States with 240 gold maple leafs, which have a value right now of $12,000 Canadian, correct? Yes, sir, that is correct. And some $37 in your wallet and maybe some change in your backpack to the best of your knowledge. Is that correct? Yes, sir, that's correct. Well, it's your lucky day today because $12,000 Canadian converts to 9,700 US. With your 37 in cash and the change in your backpack, you are under the $10,000 threshold. You are free to go. So he let me enter the United States with over 300,000 in gold without declaration. If they had been Krugerrands or gold bars, the minute you get above 10,000, if you do not declare it, they're going to take it from you if they stop you. But as it pertains to going back and forth between the United States, it is the legal tender value of the coin that matters for the purpose of international travel. Now, we've written subsequently a report on this that cites the actual law, Canadian law and the US law. Now, that was a while ago. I don't know if they've updated it or changed it, but I can swear to you that I've also done something similar in Vancouver and had the same experience, slightly different, but the same. And it is the face value amount that matters. So when you bring a gold American Eagle across the board, you're bringing $50 monetary metal, a monetary instrument, where you have these states in the United States that are recognizing gold eagles as legal tender. Same thing here for travel. Now, I wouldn't try this to Mexico or South America or to Asia, but I think going anywhere Western friendly, you would have this experience. And certainly you would want to know what you're going to say before it happens. Probably not something most people want to deal with, but I can tell you that I've had that experience twice. So to your point, I have pilots that are clients. They say TSA stands for totally stupid ass. And you're going to meet some that are, not maybe as informed. But remember, TSA is not someone who's going to deal with you looking at your coins, other than when you go through the X-ray, you can say it's my coin collection, and yeah, let's get private screening. Go ahead and look at it. Nothing illegal with that. You can travel wherever you want with all the gold you want. It's when you enter another country that you're making the declaration. So leaving the United States, you can go with all the gold you want. It's entering that next country that if you don't declare it and you're stopped, you're bumming. But if you do declare it and know what you're talking about, can cite the case law or the actual statute, U.S. regulation, then indeed you're good to go. So hit me up after, send me an email and remind me, and I will send you that report that we wrote that shows both the Canadian and the U.S. Law, the actual code that says exactly this.
Yeah, I definitely have to look that up because I'm thinking, man, I need to go get a couple more double eagles. $20. But no, I appreciate that. And like I say, we're gonna have a lawyer look into it as well. And yeah, I understand about the Asia, and I was a little concerned about that. As far as the gold aspect, I know what they're like over there, been there many times, so I do understand that part of it. And that is a very concerning part. Truth be told, I would trust my wife to take it quicker than me because she is, from that country, and she's very wise to their uh, issues there. But Brandon, if you'd like to ask a question, go ahead. That's a lot of the questions I wanted. I appreciate it, Andy. Thank you very much for answering that.
You're welcome.
And I will come back to you, and I'll probably send you an email and ask for that report. Like you, I'm very interested in it. And also, just to let you know, real quick, not trying to tie up your time, but I'm about the same age as you, and you know what? You're right. If you'd have told me 7 years ago that the United States is going to be where it's at today, I'd have said you're a damn nut. But wow, here we are. And like you, I was born in 1960. I was raised by a lot of different values than what we have today, and I am shocked at the speed at which we got here.
Yeah, well, and that's the scary part. That's logarithmic decay, little by little by little, and then it starts to increase in speed. And I think that's where we are right now, guys. But no, keep doing what you're doing, man. Keep talking about all this stuff. I think it's never been more important.
I couldn't agree more. I did, when you talk about the trust factor earlier, I did 2 tours in Iraq, and I believed so much in our mission there and getting democracy delivered to that part of the world, because Israel is the only functioning democracy in that world. And I thought we were doing such a great thing, and the whole, hey, you're invading a country because they might have weapons of mass destruction, that turned out, yeah, there was some remnants and some small little bits, but there was nowhere near what was told was going to be there. So we're losing that trust, and it's scary. You mentioned briefly, the second that this Congress decided that it was a good idea to give the go-ahead to seize those Russian forex reserves, the foreign exchange reserves, they committed a massive blunder. And it goes along with, too stupid to be stupid. Are you really that, for those people that are educated, are you really that stupid to think that the blowback from that is not going to be severe? It may not be right away, but it's going to come down the pike. So
they have to know it. They have to know it. And that's why it is too stupid to be stupid, too stupid to not be planned. So you destabilize our image on the globe. You destabilize the trust. You destabilize the dollar by printing or incurring $1 trillion in debt every 100 days. We've printed $12 trillion in the last 4 years. That's more than the entire history of the country before it. You let the country go to hell, open borders, elections, judicial, all of that stuff, lawlessness. And people look at the United States and what the hell's going on there? And it just incentivizes these countries to say, don't need it anymore. And now you have a viable alternative that is growing by the day. And the recency bias and the normalcy bias is normal at the end of any long macro established system, but it's coming to an end. And either you understand that and see it for what it is, or you get run over by it. And that's the thing with preparation. You prepare as if it's going to happen. If not, you have gold and silver you pass on to your kids. You buy food and water and all of these things to prepare for any type of a financial storm, because what goes along with something like this is a complete and total collapse of credit. And credit makes the world go round. And if you don't have credit, you don't have food on the shelves and trucks moving and all of these things happening. And so you prepare as if a hurricane is coming, literally. And also figuratively. And if you're wrong, you eat your food or donate it to a food shelf. You go target shooting with your excess bullets. You use your batteries and your remote controls, whatever it may be. There ain't nothing wrong with preparing for what could be coming. And I'm telling you, in my gut and in my soul, I know something is. I just don't know when. And I think we live in a world of not guarantees, but in probabilities. And the probability of this happening grows by the day. And, guys like you who have open minds are able to see it. You're no different than anyone else or me. I come from very middle America, very humble means. And I'm all self-taught. No one taught me anything. I did this all on my own by digging and reading. I never even graduated college. So when you talk about, the ability to think for yourself and see for yourself, and we're all responsible for our actions, and from the time we're little kids to the day we die. But the one action that people should probably put more emphasis on is preserving and safeguarding their wealth. They've spent their whole life building something. To not spend a little bit of time commensurate with the effort you put into building it, into keeping it, I would argue these days it's easier to make money than it is to keep it. And finding a way to pay yourself first, to prioritize your future self first, to let the laws of compounding work for you instead of against you, to think outside the box, to own gold and silver, which are wealth, not an investment, to be contrarian, because I think if you're not a contrarian, you're damn well apt to be a victim. And if you're fully invested in dollars, you're damn well apt to go broke when this system breaks. So in the meantime, do what you can, best you can, as often as you can, mitigate your debt, pay yourself first. And let's hope I'm wrong about all of this. And we'll all be better off in the end. But if you don't prepare and anything even close to this happens, it will be a religious experience for most of us, shall I say. And I don't wish that on anyone, but that's why I do what I do, you guys. I mean, we've done 10 billion in sales since the day we started this company, 10 billion, and never had a customer complaint. And I can't believe what we've achieved. I look back on it with so much pride, and I don't need to put myself out here on the internet where everyone knows my name. Everywhere I go, I was in Vegas recently, and the valet guy at the Wynn says, "You're Andy Schectman." I mean, everywhere I go, people say, "I know you." That means if they know me, people I probably don't want to know me, but I do it because I feel I'm doing my part. And try to be respectful about it. I try to say I am a patriot. That's why I started out by thanking you for your service. I mean, I can't come from a place where you do things respectfully and you have open dialogue. And the fact that you're defined by who you voted for last election, and we can't have these open, polite conversations is a detriment to our growth. If you never learn, if you never accept another viewpoint, you never grow. You learn more and more about less and less till you end up knowing everything about nothing. And I just think it's time to expand your horizons and look at the world as a dynamic, changing sphere that is now changing. And this is a once in a generation change. It's never been more important to take a step back from normalcy bias and recency bias and take a look at what's really happening under the surface. And gold and silver, to me, are one of the very best places to protect yourself, because it's been wealth for 5,000 years. And here we are in the midst of this craziness, and you have the biggest money in the world gobbling up whatever they can get their hands on. That should be all you really need to know. That's a good place to start. Do your own due diligence and start digging. And I think you'll see that things are not as they appear always.
Sir, if people want to visit Miles Franklin and potentially become customers and clients, before I ask this question, I'll preface this with the rumor mill out there is that Miles Franklin is only for the big boys, and it's only for the people that have millions and hundreds of thousands of dollars. The little guy shouldn't even bother calling you. So now I'll ask my question. Can you tell us a little bit about Miles Franklin, what you guys got going on, sales, how people could get in touch with you, and can the little guy become a client of Miles?
Absolutely. Franklin? I mean, yeah, we did 2 orders last year, each of them for over $50 million. We work with big clients, but we have no order minimum. And when you send us an email at info@milesfranklin.com, and you can mention that you heard us on this show, We will send you a price list that we don't publish. Our website, we don't publish prices. We do for small orders. But if you want the best prices you'll ever see, you send us an email at info@milesfranklin and ask for it and say, you know, I saw you on this podcast, and or any questions that you've heard here. We will send you that price list with no obligation. If you want to be contacted, put your phone number in there. We'll call you. But the price list that we will send you, prices will be as good or better than anywhere in America. And there are a lot of people out there, I hope some of them are watching, that will tell you through the years, over the last 3-4 years, I've talked to many people for half hour, 45 minutes, and they buy $500 worth. We don't have an order minimum and never have. So the reason maybe people say that is because we're not, dealing with Florida allergies. I never had them in Minnesota. They're just killing me now. We are bit, because we're not completely and totally online the way a lot of these online companies are. People may think that, but you never realize how important a relationship is until there's a problem. And people can call our brokers and place an order for whatever they want. 3 ounces of silver, you'll get a better price than our website. You'll get a better price than almost every company in America. And we are appreciative of every size client and any order. And so to your point, I'm bummed that is the realization or the perception, and perception is reality for a lot of people, but it couldn't be further from the truth. We treat everyone the same. And if there is anyone out there who's worked with me on small orders, you'll see they'll comment and say, no, that he's treated me the same as if I was his biggest client. And we always do. And I learned that very early on. I've been doing this longer than anyone for 34 years. I don't think there's anyone in the industry that's got the longevity that I have. And I learned that every client is important, and you never know. One of my biggest clients won the Florida State Lottery. Before that, he didn't do squat. He placed tiny little orders. And I love the guy. I would talk to him all the time. He called me and said, Andy, I just won the Florida State Lottery. And he ended up spending millions of dollars with me. I mean, you do what you do. You treat everyone with respect, and you never know where it goes. And short-sighted people have short careers. So appreciate you saying that and telling me that. I hope to change that perception. But we don't have order minimums. We want to work with everybody.
I think we'll change that perception because I'll be the one. You'll see an email at info@milesfranklin.com from me. And we'll start that rolling, and I'll do a video on it and whatnot. I also have a little idea for you that we could discuss offline that I think might attract that smaller investor. I think it's a real winner, so I'll definitely talk to you offline.
That would be great. I'd appreciate that. I'm going to have to bail here pretty quick. I got another meeting in 14 minutes, but it's been great talking with you guys. It's been very eye-opening. I'd like to do it again, and I appreciate what you're doing and having me be a little part of it today.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the time.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. I was going to say I wanted to end it about 10 minutes ago, so because I figured it'd be about time. But thank you very much. I appreciate it. We're taking in the JB 26th, 27th of July. We will be at the Greater Cincinnati Area Coin Show. Now, if you have other plans, I understand. But if you stop in for 5-10 minutes and talk to JB, he'll be the one running the show. I'll be on the inside doing my thing.
Well, if I can't make it physically, happy to jump on this way and say hello. And, of course, I appreciate the opportunity, fellas. And keep doing what you're doing. You're making a difference. And again, thanks for having me.
Appreciate you, sir.
Thank you very much.
You guys stay well.
Guys. Okay, thank you all. I appreciate it.